Bitcoin is going to hundreds of thousands of dollars very soon. Jack Mallers, CEO of Strikes Company, explain exactly why. Listen.
This thing's going to hundreds of thousands of dollars per coin, Charles. I mean, the US government is in so much debt. The way I think about Bitcoin's price equals technology plus fiat liquidity. So it's going to go up because it's innovative tech and it's better money. But what really shoots it up at a neck-breaking pace is when our government is tens of trillions of dollars in debt and has to roll that debt over. So they got a lot of money to print and financial assets are going to soar. And Bitcoin goes up the most because it's the hardest to make more of. It's over, man. This thing's going to the moon.
If you're interested in making money, crypto, make sure that you follow us. Must like this video and subscribe to the channel. It costs nothing, but helps us with the YouTube algorithm. The US is in trouble. The US is in debt. Why is the US economy in trouble? Why crypto is winning? Listen to it yourself.
Fiat currency is not the place to be, huh?
Charles, this would be my message to America. Give me a second on this one. Guys, the US government's got about $10 trillion over the next 2 years to roll over, refinance. That's debt. Our country's in debt. It's a huge problem. They got three options. One, they could pay it back. It's not a real option because we don't got the money, we're broke. Two, our government could come out, Charles, and say, you know what, guys, we screwed up. After World War II, we changed the way money worked. We got off the gold standard. We issued debt all over the place. We got way too cocky. And actually, all of our banks don't have your money. They're insolvent. All the airlines you fly and travel on aren't actually good businesses that should be in business. Healthcare shouldn't actually be free. We screwed up. We piled on so much debt and screwed up the younger generation, and we're in huge trouble. So we're gonna have to let everything fail and reset this country. Now, they're not gonna do that, are they, Charles? They have a third option, which is unique to the government. They could print the money that they're missing. And when they print the money that they're missing, they're stealing from all the people that hold US dollars. And so what they'll have to do is print dollars. And the only way to save yourself is own not dollars. And that's when you see things like the S&P 500 and gold and Bitcoin soar. And so that's what's going to happen over the next 2 years. They got to print 3 times more than they did during COVID.
I love your enthusiasm, Jack. We're going to bring you back. We really do love your enthusiasm and your message. Thanks a lot for sharing it with us. Thanks a lot.
That's Jack Mallers for you. Speaking so many facts that the host has to cut him off. That's never happened before. As for Bitcoin is concerned, remember when Vanguard steps back for providing Bitcoin ETF trading facility? Bloomberg senior analyst explains why Vanguard did that. Listen.
So Eric, this refusal to allow Bitcoin ETFs to trade on his platform, do you think it's temporary or permanent?
Look, I think down the road they're going to lighten up. I think for now this is just like just not in their DNA. It's almost like repellent to them. They generally don't like commodities in general, right? Bogle was real into stocks and bonds because that money works for you, right? It's about dividends and earnings growth or a coupon. A commodity is just what somebody else will pay for it. Now they do have GLD trade available, but that's a commodity that quote unquote has usage. So they just see this as a commodity and no usage. So it's like a double whammy for Vanguard. And you have to understand that Vanguard's like the family-friendly kind of brokerage platform. They don't allow VIX products or none of the fun stuff, no leverage products. The metaphor I use for this is if you're old enough, remember in the late 80s, Walmart would not carry certain rap albums like 2 Live Crew.
Okay.
And it actually created buzz and intrigue in the albums. It did nothing to Walmart. Like shoppers were going there for other things, cheap goods. They didn't care.
Yeah.
But it actually helped the album. This has kept the story going, I think. This has given the story more legs. So the crypto Twitter that's freaking out, I'm like, it's not that bad of a thing. And nobody who goes on Vanguard really wants Bitcoin anyway. It's not your audience.
Yeah, Scarlett, I don't know how much time you spend on crypto Twitter, but hashtag boycott Vanguard has been a hot topic over the past week. So you mentioned that Bogle didn't like commodities, wasn't a big fan, but he had some very choice words when it came to Bitcoin.
Yeah, in one of our interviews, I asked him, and his exact phrase was, avoid it like the plague. And then in Boglean fashion, he said, did I make myself clear, right? And then he goes into the whole deal with how commodities have no intrinsic value, what is investing for, and that's just his take. Now, I will say, Bogle was a Puritan. I mean, I would bring up thematic ETFs, smart beta, basically anything outside of the total market fund.
And he'd just smack it down.
And he would smack it down. So like, you're talking to the most purest of the pure, like the Yoda of investing, right? He just doesn't really, a lot of stuff is distraction to him. That said, not everybody is like him. I see this as serving a purpose in the hot sauce bucket of a portfolio. The 60-40 takes 30 years to really compound and give you the returns you're looking for in retirement, but it's boring. You can't touch it.
Yeah.
So people like to mess around. I think that's where this is going to fit, is a small allocation in that hot sauce bucket, even for some Vanguardian investors.
Franklin Templeton CEO Jenny Johnson underscores the importance of Bitcoin in protecting individuals from asset seizure by governments. She said, "There is a fear component to it that is considered almost an insurance or a safety component. Listen."
We've got a very special guest this morning, Jenny Johnson, President and CEO of Franklin Templeton, which has $1.5 trillion in assets under management. The 76-year-old firm was one of the roughly dozen to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF just last week after the SEC gave the go-ahead. Jenny, great to have you with us here on set.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with the Bitcoin ETF. I do want to, of course, get your take on the markets, but in terms of the Bitcoin ETF, we've seen massive inflows. That was expected in the early days. What do you expect as time moves on, and who are the incremental investors in this ETF in your view?
You know, it's funny, I'm known for saying that Bitcoin's the greatest distraction from one of the greatest disruptions in financial services, which is blockchain. So a lot of people took that as, I'm not a believer in Bitcoin. And yet, you know, launching this ETF, you can see obviously the demand that's out there for Bitcoin. And I think there's a lot of reasons why that is. I think that one, from a blockchain standpoint, the ability to pay, Bitcoin's going to be a key component of that. And the technology is going to open up a lot of really interesting types of investment opportunities. We actually launched a tokenized money market fund. We're the first mutual fund first traditional asset manager to actually launch a 40 Act fund on a public blockchain, on the Stellar blockchain. So Bitcoin's just one of the suite of what we think are opportunities here. You know, one of the things that made me a believer is as I went around the world talking to people who would tell you, I had somebody who said, I keep 50% of my savings in Bitcoin because if I say the wrong thing in my country, I could have my assets confiscated. I remember talking to somebody in Israel who said, my parents and their parents had all of their assets confiscated. They keep a portion of it in Bitcoin. So there's a fear component to it that is considered almost a insurance or safety component. But I also think it's really important to fueling what is a next real opportunity in this blockchain world.
Right. So, I mean, the scenarios that you just outlined, that's the case for holding Bitcoin, the actual, you know, you have the keys to the security as opposed to investing in an ETF. Right, so there's a use case for both.
For sure, but that still keeps a floor on the price, right? So it keeps on the floor on the price. And then if you've actually tried to acquire and deal with the keys, it's really complicated, right? I mean, I did it at one point and then I was trying to actually figure out how to get back in and it's hard. And so being able to open it up and have access to that through an ETF and just simply through your brokerage account is a much better way to access it.
If you're interested in making money, crypto, make sure that you follow us. Must like this video and subscribe to the channel. It costs nothing, but helps us with the YouTube algorithm.